Welcome to another episode of Lucas Live. We are here. It is Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. Yes, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, but it's all good. We're making it through no matter what's going on. You may be watching this live. You may be watching this by replay. You may be listening to this as a podcast. We are excited that you are here with us. You may be a loyal fan or you may be a first-time viewer or a first-time listener. I want to introduce myself. My name is Lucas Tyndale. I am your host here of Lucas Live, and I'm excited about today's episode. We have a wonderful couple here with us today who are going to talk to us about the difference between homeschooling and virtual school and pandemic. My kids can't go to schooling. And they're going to talk to us about their opinion and their experiences as parents who have homeschooled their children for quite some time. We'll find out how they came to those decisions and how they've navigated that world. And we're going to take their advice and we're going to listen to them and we're going to hear from them. Now, what we're not going to do is we don't want you to feel judged by their opinion of what they've done and how they're going to encourage us to make some decisions. Now, their decisions and what they're going to help us think about may be different than the decisions you made in the past, or it may challenge what you were thinking, but please be open. You guys know this show is about education, motivation, liberation. So we want to educate you about this perspective. We want to motivate you to really start thinking through the decisions that you're making, and we want to liberate you to make the choice that you want to make. So we're excited about this today. So welcome. We thank you guys as you guys jump in. Miss Tamika Jones, we see here today. Miss Corinne Marie Tyndale, my beautiful wife. Thank you so much for joining the show today. We love it when you guys make comments. It helps us know that you are in the room. It may be, again, I always say we're live here. We are recording a live podcast, okay? So what I want you guys to understand is you're not, this is the recording of a show. So we record now at 8 a.m., right? And we love it when you're here live. We like to shout you out. We like to you guys to participate. We're going to be bringing in more rewards and giveaways and things like that during the live show. But if you're not here live, it's okay. All right. Or if you ever have a day where you like to be here live, but you can't be here live, go back and watch the replay. And we are right now in the process of uploading old episodes to Spotify and to Apple iTunes, podcasts, and everywhere podcasts are shown and sold and played. So you guys will be able to listen to this while you're working out, while you're at the gym, wherever you're at, driving in your car. We understand sometimes if you watch us on YouTube or Facebook, once the app closes, the videos go off and you can't hear the show, can't enjoy it. So we're going to make sure we bring it to you as a podcast so you guys can watch it in any way, anywhere you are, in any way you can. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're excited to have you. Good morning, all. Good morning. We're so excited that you guys are here. So we're going to have this discussion today. You guys stay tuned this week. We have we're now live 3 days a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. Today we have Dave and Keena Woods who are going to share some great insight with us. Tomorrow morning, we have Mr. Alex Simon back, friend of the show, coming back to have a discussion with us tomorrow morning. And then Thursday, our producer, Miss Amanda Jean Dukes, and I will be talking about some funny, lighthearted topics. We're going to watch some videos from social media and maybe some memes, and we're just going to have a good time and lighten things up, okay? So that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys check us out the rest of the week. Now, before we bring our guests on, I want you guys to tell you guys something as the host of the show. When I host the show, a lot of people are like, man, you got a lot of energy, and, we really enjoy that, and that's what I want to bring to the show, and I really enjoy it. But I also want you guys also know that this show is dedicated to my mom, who passed away on March 26th of this year, and it's been tough. And yesterday was a tough day for me. It was hard. It was just one of those days. If you ever lost somebody really close to you, some days are just harder than others, and some days you can't pull yourself together. And yesterday was one of those days. I was actually on a call, about to go into a business call, and I was on camera, and I was starting to cry. The person said, "How are you?" And I was like, it made me think of it. I really was like, I'm not good for real. But we always try to push through. We always try to be people how are you? We're like, I'm good. I wasn't good. And they were kind enough to see that. They were kind enough. They understood. They know that what I'm going through. And they said, hey, let's just reschedule. It's no big deal. So I'm so grateful to them for being so understanding. But that was tough. And that's real. Okay. So we all are pushing through and doing the best we can and smiling and bringing energy to the things that we have to bring energy to, our family, our friends, our jobs, whatever it may be. But also, there's days where it's tough, you guys can see I got some bags under my eyes. I'm a little. It was tough. It was a tough day. It was a tough night. I didn't sleep much. A lot of tears, but I just thank God because I know I'm gonna overcome. I know I'll be okay. I know me and my family will be okay. But shout out to anybody and much love to anybody out there who's grieving today or any day who's been dealing with the loss of a loved one. I know what it's like. And I just want to say that as somebody who's here, your host, and giving you energy and love and excitement, I want you to know that I have bad days too, that I'm grieving too, that I'm sad too, that I cry too. So I just say that to encourage somebody out there who may be going through something and you feel like it's wrong to cry or it's wrong to grieve or it's not okay or something's wrong, or even as a man to other men, it's okay. Right. And I want to thank my wife for always being there to support me, to pray for me, to hold me, to let me shoulder to cry on whatever I need. I thank her so much for being that. And I sadly still sometimes don't want to cry like a lot of men. Like I'm like, I don't, not like my wife is going to judge me or anything, but it's just like, I feel bad that I'm putting my sadness and my burden on anybody, even my family. And I'm like pulling it together. And my wife is like trying to talk to me at one point and she couldn't see we were in the bed and it was dark. And she was trying to talk to me and she didn't know if I was just ignoring her. And I couldn't talk because of, I couldn't talk, right? Like, like you have tears, you're choked up almost, right? But again, I thank her for her love and support. And I just want to encourage anybody out there today who may be grieving the loss of a loved one. We're going through a crazy time in the history of the world. And you may have lost a loved one this year or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and you're still dealing with the pain. And we just want you to know we love you and we're praying for you here at Lucas Live and that we understand what it's like. So thank you guys again, as always, for your love and support. Shamar, thank you so much. Jaisha, Ebony, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys for being here today. And we're going to get into the show with our great guests again. We're going to have an important conversation today about homeschooling versus virtual learning. What is the difference? Some of us became homeschool parents, sort of. Some of our kids was just home for school. We was like, you better sit down. You better do what your teacher told you to do. So we're going to talk to a couple today who have been homeschooling their kids for quite some time. And we're going to get their thoughts and their insight this morning. Let us welcome to the show Mr. Dave and Keena Woods. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up,
Hey. Glad to have you two here today. So glad to have you guys. So you guys are friends of the show. You guys have been on Lucas Live before. So it's cool to have you guys back. You guys were on back in the day. You know what I mean?
Back in the day.
Months ago when it first started, y'all was some of the OG guests back in the days,
Back in the hot mic days.
Back in the hot mic days. So if you guys ever saw their episode, they were talking while I was talking. And I think you guys might have been the first guests on this new platform, on Ecamm Live, this platform that I'm using now. So I didn't know that they could hear you because you guys weren't on the screen. And y'all was talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And, you almost got a couple indictments.
Intimate in my wife's ear.
He was getting intimate. He was nibbling on his wife's earlobes and whatnot. It was just crazy. I don't know what was going on. And so it was so fun to have you guys, and I'm excited to have you guys back. I see some people jumping in. We got Mr. Legit Smith in the house, who's going to be a guest on the show. We got to get you on here. We already talked about it, but we got to get it done. We got to get Miss Amanda Jean Dukes to reach out to you, get you on the show here. So glad to have you, Erica. Thank you for being here as well. Tasha Ellis, we're always so glad to have you. So you too. So just to jump into it, and we'll talk about some other things. You guys are just a wonderful couple too. It's always fascinating to talk to you guys about your life and your journey as well. So I do want us to share with the audience. There's somebody on here who doesn't know your story, who doesn't know your journey, who could benefit from hearing a little bit about you guys. But I want to start with the homeschool piece. You guys are sitting, it looks like you're sitting in your kid's classroom or something right now. I don't know what's going on. Your kids are somewhere like this. What are they doing? Why are they fronting? That's our spot, right? So I don't know what's going on. But tell us about, first of all, how many children you have, what are their ages, and then why did you guys are homeschool parents and you were before the pandemic. Why did you make that choice?
So we have 4 children, and Carlin is 10, Kaiser is 8, Camden is 5, and Kaden is 3. So we started homeschooling when we moved to Florida 5 years ago. So when we were in Canton, our daughter went to Weaver Child Development Center, which is like a Reggio type of Montessori school. It was faith-based. We absolutely loved it. The price was amazing. The teachers were amazing. It was just the best environment for our child. So when David got the job in Florida, we thought that our kids would be going to a private school down here. And by the time we got here, there was no like tuition assistance because it was super expensive. I think Weaver would have been like less than $500 a month for 2 of our kids to go to pre-K and kindergarten, and then this one was $1,000. And I'm like, we can't make that jump yet. So we met some people like within our first month of being here, and I was just kind of telling them like we didn't know what we were going to do. I think our plan was to homeschool after 3rd grade because Weaver only went to 3rd grade. But I knew I didn't have to think about it until then. They would have their foundational stuff done, and then I just jump in and we continue their education. So it was very interesting, like just talking to them, and they were like, well, why pay college tuition now? I'm like, y'all have a good point. Like, and we don't have to do it yet. And then we already planned on homeschooling later. But we had the idea. We didn't know for sure what would happen. So they just were like, this is all you need for kindergarten. And I'm like, man, why not? Why not just try? And I just feel like it was something that, we had peace with, like God gave us peace with, just to make that decision. But initially for us, it was a financial thing. Like, well, we're not sending them there for that much a month. Right. So we might as well, especially for kindergarten. It's almost like just going to, like some people will choose a community college instead of a university just for that first year. But right. and not to say that the education is any less than what they would get in a public school or private school setting, but it was for us a financial decision from the start.
Interesting. That is, and so you guys, like some parents, I mean, we were thrown into it, a lot of parents, by a pandemic, right? It was like, I remember going to my daughter's school that day. She was in 5th grade last year, and I went and I picked up her instrument and things. So, and I talked to the principal of the school, and the principal of the school, like, she was about to cry. She was like, I've never seen anything like this. I don't know. And in my mind, I was like, our kids aren't coming back. And I had actually pulled my kids out of school a few days early because this stuff was going down. I'm like, they don't have a plan. These kids going to be sick. I told my kids, y'all ain't got to go to school. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know when they're closing, but there's no way this is going to continue, right? So we were forced into it. You guys, likewise, in some ways, were forced to look at this option. So you guys are familiar then with the fact that some people are now forced to look at this option.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just some easy street for you guys where you guys are like, yeah, we were both homeschooled as kids, so we always planned on doing this. So you were thrown into it. So tell us about year one. Are both of you guys the teachers? Is one of you guys the primary teacher? Do you take class? I mean, do one of you do math and the other one does social studies? What's going on in the Woods house? How did you guys, or at least tell us first now, how did you start that journey? How did it start for you?
You know what? It was actually our first year. I feel like I look back and I'm like, man, it was easier because then I had, 2 older kids. I mean, Carlin was 6, Kaiser was 3, and I had the baby. She was 5 months old. So for me, it was easy. I'm like, just hold the baby, nurse the baby, do whatever you got to do. And she's content. I didn't have anybody like running through the house, making a mess, or just being crazy or like really trying to figure out how to entertain toddlers and entertain the older ones. We focused most on reading, writing, and math. Like we would do some science here and there, but we focused also a lot on social. Let me back up because that's one of the homeschool myths. We focused a lot on building community relationships, within our homeschool community. We did a lot of field trips, a lot of museum trips, going to the zoo, different things like that. Like we focused because they're kindergartners. I think that now, if you think about like when we were in school, the kindergarten is a lot different now than it was when we were in school. All I remember is playing house and, playing with baby dolls, learning your ABCs, going to the treasure box. Like, I feel like I had the best kindergarten teacher ever. But it's so different now. Like these kids in kindergarten have so much pressure already. Like they're reading, they're doing PowerPoints, which that's a great, like a nice bragging point, but is it really developmentally okay? Man. Yeah. I mean, there are some kids who are doing that and it's like, crazy. It's a great, like, oh, my kid is doing this, but is it really necessary for development?
Right.
So we kind of took it slow. We did math and we did a book. It's like Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. If anybody's having trouble with their children with reading, that's also a good book to just go back and get the fundamentals and the basics is super easy. Like your
Mm-hmm.
child will probably be on like a second grade reading level
Mm.
by the time they're done.
Wow.
So that was awesome. And it was frustrating at times. It was hard because I'm teaching a totally new skill. And I wasn't a teacher. I have a social work degree. I did work at Boys and Girls Clubs in the education center, but I'm not a teacher,
Right.
so I didn't know all the methods and ways to teach. But we learned together. And most of the curriculum that you use, it has all the directions. It tells you exactly how to teach.
It's a recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's so many YouTube videos that if there's something that I'm confused about or, that we don't know, we can go on and say, hey, type in a specific curriculum. And there's more than likely some guidance on what to do. But the first year I feel like was great. David would jump in. It was mainly me because he was working,
Mm-hmm.
which, is normal for a lot of families. But he would jump in if there was something that I was just like, I'm just frustrated. Like, I don't know why she's not getting it. I don't know how to teach this,
Yeah.
So he would come and do a lesson. So, and that's one thing that, it's a family commitment. It's not just a mom commitment or just a dad commitment or just a kid commitment. It's a family commitment.
Yeah.
And everybody has to play a role.
I love it.
In education. So.
No, I was just going to add, I think, kind of just looking at it from like the mental aspect of like that first year or people's first experience with homeschooling or schooling at home, right? What you can't do to yourself is look at it like, how are we going to do this whole year, right? Trying to fit this whole year in a single moment. I think what is key for anybody who's trying to make this decision is just take it day by day, right? Like you're not expected to be an expert in all this subject matter, right? A lot of us have been out of school for some time, and depending on where your kids are, some are in high school, some are in middle school, you're like, I don't know how to do that homework. They smarter than me in this. So how am I going to fulfill that requirement of teaching them? And you can't do that to yourself, because I think people get overwhelmed thinking that they have to like condense it all into this moment of, now I have to replicate this teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's been doing it for 30 years. And I think for Keena, like when we first started, like you said, we kept it simple. We tried to focus on community. We tried to focus on relationship building. The beauty of homeschool is that in a lot of ways you get to customize your curriculum, so you get to kind of determine, okay, what's best for my child in this moment or what's best for them in this year. And so that's the approach that we took, at least starting off with a foundation. And then you just build from there, right? You can go in whichever direction you feel is necessary.
Yeah.
But I think just for anybody who's trying to make this decision, who, feels that pressure of it, don't try and condense the whole year into this single moment, right? You'll be fine. We all turned out okay.
Right.
You'll be able to work through it with your kid, figure it out. It's not going to be as difficult as you think.
So let's talk about you two for a second, and we'll get back to the kids. A lovely couple you are. But I'm guessing that there are days where that's another thing, right? Like a lot of us have relegated the education of our children to the school system. And I think a lot of times far too much. I think we've given them way too much power, and there's a lot they're not learning. And our systems are set up to perpetuate and teach the things that they decided they were going to perpetuate and teach, and they're buying the books from the same manufacturers. And here we go again for generations. But you two as a couple are now schooling your children, trying to have a relationship, trying to do business, trying to work your jobs. That's a lot. All right. Every layer you add to your relationship of needing to work together as a team allows for more opportunities of conflict. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife are not arguing much about the kids' schooling per se. They handle their business in school. If the teacher say they did something wrong, we both on them like, y'all, you better get it together, right?
Right.
And that's it, right? So talk to us as a couple about the dynamics and the challenges even of this is one more thing we have to be on the same page about on a daily basis.
You want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a large part, basically what we did, we absorbed every aspect of life into our house, right? Because for the most part, school is like, it's more schedule based, traditionally where, kids leave for a certain amount of time and you have a schedule that surrounds it, where in this realm, we absorb that into our house. So now nothing in a sense is done outside of there other than, when I was working or when I'm working,
Right.
and so in large part, what it does is now it forces you to, to work through different things, to have to figure out things together collectively, where I think for us, it involves our children more,
Okay.
because for the most part, parents are the ones dictating or making decisions that, kids, they go to school and that's that. Whereas here, there's more conversations, right? So I think what one of the biggest benefits it has provided us with is really just the relationship we have with our kids, right? Because we are directly involved in that conversation, directly involved in that decision making, and so are they in some extent, right? And I think for us, it's not always easy, don't get us wrong, in a lot of ways there's frustration with it. Like Keena said, she'll be trying to teach, the little ones running around tearing up the joint, the other two are distracted. I get the phone call, like, come get your kid.
I'm signing them up for school right now.
Like it isn't always easy, and so I'm like, man, I'm trying to get to this meeting, she at home, what's the big deal, right? And so I've told people, like, as a husband, as a father, I've had to work through it myself, because I had to come to terms with the fact that, it's not easy. Like, her job is not easier than mine, just because I'm somewhere working and she's at home, with the kids all day. Like, it's probably harder than mine's in a large part because there's so many different, variables that she's managing.
Absolutely. And I think it's been said before that just being an at-home mom is like 2 full-time jobs, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's often undervalued in our society. We're like, you at home, you chilling, you at home, right? And it's funny because I think a lot of people now, because of the pandemic and so many people working from home and the kids being home, are realizing how complicated it is and how challenging it is to juggle all these things. And they're like, man, if I was home, I'd be chilling. No, it's a lot, right?
No,
so
you're not chilling ever.
So Keena, speak to those out there, and not just the realities of the work that it takes, but how you stay strong enough to overcome the challenges every day.
I think just even to add on to David, like, you have to know your why. I think that there have been some days, I remember just driving, like, I had a rough day with schooling, and we were driving down one of our busiest streets, and I seen a lot of kids off the bus, and these kids are hitting each other. And not that my kids wouldn't do that, They're not perfect because they're kids.
Right.
But I was like, man, it just brought me back to my why. Like, why am I doing this? Because I want the fruit for the investment that we are putting into our kids. Like, I want the fruit later on in their lives. I want to have their hearts. I want them to come to me instead of their friends when they have issues. I want to build those relationships. So for me, it's always coming back to my why. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And I find strength in our community. Like, we have an amazing, very diverse homeschool community, lots of moms with lots of different ages, lots of different cultural backgrounds. So that helps me a lot when, we have like monthly meetings. So then I come back so like energized and excited. And I'm like ready to like, let's go. And Dave's looking like, I've been here with these kids for 3 hours while you was praying and doing all of that. So, I'm like, but things like that, community, and then really remembering our why is what keeps me energized. When we have those rough days, like, why are you doing it? Even if it's virtual school, go back to your why. It may be frustrating. You may have moments where, you feel like you regret the decision that you made, but you have to go back to, why did I do it? And maybe put those goals out, write them down, put them up so that the family sees it. This is why we're doing this. Because I feel like our why is what always brings us back, even in marriage, when you're trying to work through things, like, what is your why? Yeah. We want to be a very loving couple so that when our children leave, that we still have each other and we love each other. Right. And we're not looking like, who are you? So like, you have to work through those things. So you have to know, what is your why for keeping your marriage together in the midst of all the layers of business and family and entrepreneurship and work and school. You have to know what your why is.
That's excellent insight, and I think it's always key for all of us to stay grounded if we don't know why we're doing and we lose sight of why, right? Sometimes we literally ask ourselves that, like, why in the world did I start doing this nonsense? What was I thinking, right? Why did I do this? But why it is the right question. We just have to dig a little deeper to find the answer.
Oh yeah.
Ebony Akron, also friend of the show, says, How did you tap into a homeschool community? A lot of us have not seen the signs and the people, and we didn't know that this existed.
Right.
Is this something like secret, something we got to do to get initiated in, or are they
Right.
different in different communities? How did you guys find yours?
All right. So what you're gonna do? No, I'm kidding.
I know, right. It's a
We
secret
actually-
society. You got to
Right.
bring 3
It was
chickens.
weird. We met when we first came. We went to like a little bounce. They had a bounce house thing a couple times a week at a local church, and that's how we met all of our friends,
Okay.
all of our homeschool friends. But what I would suggest,
Wait. You just happened to go to a bounce house place, or it was like that was
No
the
lie.
spot to. You just happened to
Listen.
meet them. Okay, all right.
Okay, so let me back up. The church that we were going to go to when we moved down here, and the school that my kids would have gone to if we would have gone the private school route, they had a bouncing at the Rock like twice a week. So the kids
Okay.
would go and play on the bounce houses. So when we came, we just met the right person.
Okay.
And she literally introduced us to everyone.
Wow.
And so 2 weeks later, we were at 4th of July fireworks with people. The next day, we were at their cookout, and that's where they were like, why not just homeschool? And I'm like, oh, wow. Maybe we can do this. So that was how it was nothing but God, because we moved down here. The only family we had was my uncle, who was 5 hours south of us.
Wow.
So we had no one, so that was like God. And I know that one of our desires, I think before we left, was to have really like real relationships where it's an iron sharpens iron, and people who we can look up to, and people who we can help and they can help us. But what you could do to tap into homeschool community, I would honestly just go on Facebook and type in Ohio homeschoolers, Akron homeschoolers, Canton homeschoolers, wherever you live. You could do Black Akron homeschoolers. You could do Christian homeschoolers in Akron, Ohio. Whatever group you want to join, I would just type that in Facebook and then join the groups on there. And then a lot of people will put out a message, which is kind of cute, almost like a dating. And I know Lucas can help y'all with this, like a homeschool dating.
Got you.
Dating ad, like, hey, I'm a mom of, this many kids. This is what we like to do. And we're looking for new friends. We're new to the homeschool community. And I can guarantee that these people will embrace you. And if they don't, find another group, because there's tons of them. There are so many groups. And I would honestly, if you go to a local church, ask around in there, because there may be some families that you don't even realize actually homeschool, and we'll be homeschooling this year for the first time.
Awesome. Megan Bond Stokes, welcome to the show. She said, not by chance, by God. I love the strength of your faith. It's so inspiring. Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because as you were saying it, I was thinking, and I'm like, this was just God. It was God.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
One step after the other, lighting your steps, ordering your steps, showing you the way. And now you guys are helping others at a time. Did you guys plan on being the homeschool experts? I mean, was that something you guys wrote down on your dream board? What?
On our vision? No, we're not experts, though.
Right.
Okay.
We're not experts. Like, half the time, I feel like we're still trying to pull it together. We are 5 years. This will be our 6th year.
Yeah.
Our 6th year. Like, we are 6 years in, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing half the time. But I have community.
Okay.
And I have friends. And I have a homeschool evaluator that gives us guidance on curriculum and things like that. So I'm still learning.
Okay.
And the more that we add, like as we add in our younger children, it's going to be a whole different type of game. When I'm schooling, like this year, after our baby turned 6, I'll be schooling 3 kids. And that's like, whoa, that's big. I've been doing 2 for so long, and now we're going to add another one in. So it's going to be interesting.
Interesting.
But I don't have it together. I promise.
So we don't have to have it all together to get started.
No.
We don't have to have it all together.
No.
Even if we're not choosing homeschooling, but our kids are home for school and we need to take a more active role. We don't have to be experts. We don't have to be perfect.
No.
Yeah. I think that's
I would say even with that, like, with the kids who are going to do school at home, what you don't want to do is look at it like, hopefully everything works out on the computer. They stay focused and I don't have to interrupt it too much. I would tell those parents to say, look at it as an opportunity to figure out how you can supplement what it is they're learning. Now it's not just, hey, you got homework to do, well, go to your room and do it, or, what's your report card looking like? You actually probably get to listen or, just be more close in proximity to what they're learning and just try and take somewhat of an active role, be an extended tutor, ask them questions about it, learn with them at the same time. I think, kids now have, for the most part, we went to public school. I know I tried to keep as much of it away from my parents as possible so they didn't find out if I was acting a fool or if I was missing on assignments or
Right.
cheating on the test or whatever, now all the time. And so,
You're a
I think
cheater. What?
what parents can do now is like, even in addition to that, right? Like we talk about how much stuff we didn't learn while we were in school, whether it was just basic finances or things like that. Like here's a book, that I started doing with my daughters. It's about kids entrepreneurship,
Love
right?
it.
So even though this isn't part of the normal curriculum,
right?
yeah, I did this kind of as a side project for her, just teaching her basic things about marketing, how to set up a lemonade stand. So when we do a garage sale, she ain't playing with the toys. She actually trying to
I
hustle
like that.
and learn some skills, So I think even with that, you have an opportunity to supplement different things that, because if you're schooling at home, I don't think, you parents can really change that curriculum. It's kind of set in stone. They're going to have to show up on the computer. They're going to be ready to go. But there's also other things that I think now you have a chance to just be active in the engagement of their learning, right? And try and do other things to support that. So there's a lot of different options to take. But going back to what you said, we're far from experts. I mean, I think with Carlin, we just kind of figured out her learning style with math, so to speak.
Is she okay? I mean, is she all right? Y'all just figured it out. She ain't like sitting around like 2 plus 2 is Jello. She ain't messed up, right? Okay, I'm just making sure.
No.
All right, we want to see the fruit of this. All right,
right. But this is the thing: is that in school, if they're having trouble learning or retaining or something, a child would automatically be marked delayed, or they're slow, or you're gonna go here, you're gonna go there, and they might be forced to even just learn in a style that is not good for them. It's not their learning style. So for us, it took us, we're doing math the whole time, but it took us, like, we changed curriculum 3 times to get what stuck.
Wow. And
then finally we got it. And then now, it's just like she's taking off.
Yep.
But it was really finding the curriculum that worked for her. That's the beauty of being able to do, like, of homeschooling. And there's nothing wrong with whatever you choose, you have to have peace with. But for us, being able to do that was huge. I'm like, I couldn't imagine if, she was somewhere else and wasn't possibly like understanding, like, how would that teacher react? The teacher doesn't even, and it's not a knock against teachers. They don't have time.
They don't.
They got 30 kids in the class.
Right.
And
you're about to go to 3 and the teacher has 30. What is that like?
Exactly. Like, I couldn't imagine. So, like, I'm thankful that we are able to switch and change curriculum as we see fit. Like, you stay consistent with something. If it's not working, you move to something else that works better for your child.
Love it. Sharice Grantham asked, she said, do you teach your kids the old school math or new? She said, I find myself thinking my son is doing it wrong, but he gets the answer right, and I don't know how. What's the deal with that?
I think a lot of the homeschool curriculum books do Common Core, but the ones that we use are just regular math. And I'm like, I don't know the purpose behind Common Core, but ain't nobody doing all of that. Like, as long as you arrive at the right answer, that's my main thing. Arrive at the right answer.
Yep.
No, no, girl.
Right. I can't teach what I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Okay, but you still help them get to the right answer. One question I have for you guys is, when your kids are done with homeschooling, can they get a scholarship? Do they get to go to college? Do they have to work at home on the farm or something? Like, what's the deal?
No. Hopefully our businesses are so built up.
Oh, okay. I like
work
it.
For us, start some franchises.
All right.
But no, they can go to college. They can get scholarships. We have a couple, and this is the nice thing about community. I have another mom in our homeschool group whose 2 of her sons are in college now. And they're doing very well. So it's nice to see, like, they were homeschooled throughout their whole schooling career, and now they're in college. They can play sports. You can sign your kids up in the local school district. They can go to college. They can get scholarships. We haven't really dived too much into that because we are so far away from, like, what they need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, okay.
I think, one of the things that's funny, is like our relationship to homeschooling is so foreign, right? Because we didn't grow up in a community like that. Like, there was one kid I knew that was homeschooled in elementary school, and he just, like, got abducted by aliens and disappeared. and I ain't never seen him again. I'm like, what happened to Wesley? He was just with us in third grade, and now he gone. Like, he went to homeschool, and that was like some faraway island. Like, I don't know where this dude went, right? And so you don't know. It's like weird. Like, you almost look at it like, well, if they do that at home, how they gonna go to college, or how they gonna be normal?
Right.
And it's really not much of a difference. Like Keena said, if you can involve them in sports, they can actually participate in a local school district sports activities. And I was reading not too long ago how actually college recruiters actually look at homeschoolers kind of favorably, just because of, in some ways they do test at an above average level, whether it's SAT or ACTs,
right?
Because their teaching at home is, I guess, a little more intense.
Yeah.
Because, right, it's so individualized, right? So they look at them in sometimes more of a way of a complete product versus maybe just a product of an environment. So it does have its advantages, from that perspective. But yeah, everything is still normal in terms of what their future outlook is. But like Keena said, we raising kidpreneurs here. So hopefully about the time graduation comes, sugar babies, they might take the southern region. Kaiser might take the western region. They're going to take the eastern region.
Can we get a Midwest region, please? Can we please get sugar babies a little bit closer to my house, please? I'm sick and tired of seeing sugar baby ads.
All right, whatever. Let me let this go. I'm going to back up. I'm going to let it go. All right.
Okay.
Sugar Babies Cookies. Shout out to you, Miss Keena Woods, the founder, creator of Sugar Babies Cookies. I hope Dave ain't running off to go grab some cookies to eat them on camera. Let that brother tell him I'm about to have to come.
You asked for him.
I hope this is about to be in a mailing package of some kind. Well, listen. Forget y'all. You know what? Forget y'all.
Something, bro.
You know
I was
what?
just thinking about these
You know
cookies when I
what?
woke up.
You know what?
This the last episode you will ever see Keena and Dave Woods on there. Cancel culture. Shut it down.
All right.
Amanda, mark them as not allowed. No longer friends of the show.
All right, they're not allowed back. All right,
That's hilarious.
So you guys, so you got your Sugar Babies Cookies. You got businesses you're building. You're building Kidpreneurs. I love that idea. We are the same. Our kids have T-shirt businesses and other things that they're learning to do. My son is about to be editing videos here for Lucas Live. I've been telling him he wanted to learn to cut hair when he went to college, right? He's like, I'm gonna cut hair. I'm like, you don't know nothing about cutting hair. I'm like, learn to cut videos. I'm like, that's going to be a thing that people are going to need in an ongoing way. If you could sit down at a computer, do it at your own time. You could do it any time of day, get it done. So he took a class last year at school, and now he's trying to translate that skill. But Dave, you talked about Wesley who got abducted, or it seemed like it, right? Young Wesley, we're still looking for you. If you're out there, brother, let us know you're okay. But there are some people who are saying, people have said this to me, that homeschool kids are weird. They're like, them kids that went to homeschool are weird. They don't have any, they're like just odd. They're like childlike. They're like younger than their age acting when they finally come into the regular school. Because maybe they'll pop up at like high school. Wesley will get off the spaceship or something. And here he is in high school. And you looking at Wesley like, where you been, bro? Like, you been in a time capsule or something? Like, you don't know what we, like, they don't talk the talk. They're so different. They seem like aliens. So, again, for you guys, what is your goal? Because I know y'all done met some weird homeschool kids. I mean, everybody has. How do you keep your kids like at a level of normalcy? Now let me say that, but as a caveat, there's a lot of junk that we call normal that's abnormal, that ain't cool, that ain't okay, absolutely, that our kids shouldn't be exposed to. But what is your thought about your kids really, fitting in when we've seen those kids who we know who have been homeschooled who sometimes come across as socially awkward?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
wifey gonna take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is one of the biggest myths in homeschool. And our friend on his live video said that he thought his kids were gonna be like children of the corn,
right?
Like these super weird kids. And I'm like, I thought that was so hilarious because that's what you think of. You don't think of, number one, usually you don't think of Black homeschoolers. You don't think of cool homeschoolers. I mean, I like to say we're kind of cool. Like, we just do normal stuff. Like, if my kids were in school, we do normal things like we would anyways. But what you have to realize, we had people who were different or weird in school.
Okay, true.
You had the people who didn't talk to anyone in school. Those would be the same people who are at home and being weird.
Okay, great point.
That's just who they are.
True.
That's just who they are. So I feel like if you have a homeschooler, you could have some who are weird at home. They will be weird in school. Mm-hmm. but we just do life. We get out, we go places, we have fun. And it's so funny when our kids get with our little community of homeschoolers, you wouldn't even know that these kids are
Wow.
homeschooled. They're all so inclusive. Like we were at a pool and this little girl was like, "Oh, I can't play because of coronavirus." And we were like, okay, but my kids kept gravitating towards her, and our friends' kids kept gravitating because they want to include you. They want to play.
Yeah.
They want to interact. So like they don't miss a beat. They get so much socialization and normalcy with sports and activities. Like most of our friends' kids, I mean, they're in dance, they're in basketball, football, gymnastics. They're doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So you still get that normal socialization, but the whole purpose of homeschool for us, not the whole purpose, part of it is to be countercultural. We don't want to be like everyone else.
Okay.
We
All
don't
right.
want our kids to always fit in. We don't want them to think that certain things are normal or to be desensitized to certain things in the world. So for me, it's okay that they don't always fit in. I don't want them to always fit in.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a great point. I like that a lot. Because we do start to figure out what's normal, and we want our kids to be normal, and there's a lot of abnormal stuff going on in the world.
Yeah.
And as believers, we know there's some stuff out here. I mean, our kids are under attack. I mean, that's just the reality of it. That's just the reality. And we have to know it, and they're coming for our kids at a younger and younger age.
Absolutely.
And school teaches them how to systematically fit in with everybody else and walk line stuff. And the funny part is that's actually what school was created to do, was to create factory workers. So it was to create people to walk in line and do a task and be obedient and figure out how to follow a system. And we all complain that our kids are not getting enough. Let's talk about Black history, okay? As Black parents, what do you guys do to make sure your kids are learning? Because, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the curriculum you get from wherever you order your curriculums from really are teaching about, Madam C.J. Walker and all of that, or are y'all turning on Netflix? I mean, how do you guys go about that, or do you go about it? Is it a thing for you guys?
Yeah, I think what I talked about before was that we like to, right now, because our kids are younger, Carlin is now getting into, she's getting older, so now we can expose her to more. But we always want to teach Black history from a place of power. And I don't want to teach them from a place of victimization. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to explain, but we focus a lot on family history. I have grandmothers who were sharecroppers. And who made the decision to move up north to have a better life for their families. So we focus a lot on family history and where our family came from, because I really want them to know that too. It's great to know about everyone else, but I really want them to know who they are. Like my father and his family is from the Cape Verdean Islands. We focused a lot on that during quarantine, eating Cape Verdean food and learning about the island and the people and the culture. So I really want them to know a lot about who they are as people and as like their history. And then, we read different books, about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, we watch videos on YouTube. There are a lot of, I'll post some links when we're done, but there are different homeschool curriculums that are specifically focused on Black history.
That's awesome.
So that is something that, that we'll add, like I said, as they get a little older, and I have to watch because usually we're all together in a lesson. So I don't think my 3-year-old needs to know, about the civil rights movement just yet. That's just me. Okay. I want to protect her from the way that I explain things. So I want to make sure that I'm explaining, like I said, from a place of power and not a victim. I want my kids to be thankful that now, although there are things that are still happening and we still have struggles, for them to be thankful that they can have these relationships with people who are different from them.
Yeah. I don't
know. That's just me, but
That's good.
I think,
That's good.
Too, when I think about what we learned in Black history in public school was, we spend a week, we would watch Roots, all 12 parts of that. You wouldn't have no discussion, but that was a large part of what Black history was for us sometime in February. And then you put a picture of somebody up on the wall and you'd read a little snippet of their bio, right? But there was no added discussion, that took place with that. It was like a checklist, right? Whereas here, you can focus on some of those same figures, but you can have a conversation with your kids. Make sure they understand it. Speak to them, like Keena said, more from a place of celebration of, not so much look how far we've come, but look at all that we've accomplished, and it's not just focused on the oppression aspect of it, to where kids, in some ways they can feel victimized, or they can kind of develop that mentality in which, we're in control of that. That's the last thing we want our kids to do, is grow up feeling like, they're a victim of something, right? We want them to know, like, look, this is the opportunity that you have. This isn't your reality. So now you can go further, in a lot of different ways. So I think, when you look at like Black history, it can be whenever you want it. It doesn't have to be, in the month of February.
Right?
Exactly, right. It can be throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
You can learn about a different individual. You could study their life. We could talk about George Washington Carver, and I could tell my daughter, okay, how many inventions did he create, with the peanut? How do you think he came up with that? Learn about how he came to those conclusions, right? So now you can see how God worked in his life. But I think for us, it's a large part is trying to have added conversations to what we're learning, not just, providing them, this history lesson and letting that be that, which in a lot of ways I think school does. And I'm in agreement with you just on, what it's designed to do, just normal public education, because I think about the people who got into like auto shop, right? To me, it's like, I always wonder how them dudes got to leave from 5th to 7th period and got to go work in a mechanic building. Like, I never saw the signups for that, but I wanted to learn how to change some oil, but it seems so hard to get into like those specialized skill sets, where in large part it's like, give you all this curriculum, hopefully something sticks, you find your way, you find some interest, and then you go get a major in that, maybe in college, right? But here, just like with whether it's Black history or what, we're trying to, like, my prayer always is to, Lord, show me what my child's gift is, so that I can cultivate it, at an early age. Like, it's not my job to create that gift. That gift has already been planted in them.
Yes.
My job is to now cultivate what he's already planted inside my kids, and water it and nurture it and help that thing grow. So by the time now when they're of age to utilize their gift, they're not spending countless years trying to find it. You think about how many kids go to school undecided in majors, right? Because probably that gift hasn't been cultivated or nurtured, where I'm always seeking, like, Lord, show me what it is that you've designed them to do, because I'm really just a steward over that. Our kids aren't designed to be with us until the end of time. We have a certain period of time, right, that we have devoted, or that he has given us to steward over them, right? To say, here, because, in the Bible it says children are a gift from God, right? So it's a gift that obviously he's given us that I have to take care of for a certain amount of time, so that I can release them to go on and do what he's designed them to do. And that's, one of the biggest things for me, just with what we're doing, is that I have a direct responsibility, even more so now. I'd be a fool not to take advantage of it.
Amen, brother. I feel that. We often wait till people we ask young people, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Then we don't do anything to cultivate it. They'd be like, I want to be a firefighter. They'd be like, all right, go back to school. Right? Yeah. Like, good luck. Hope y'all go on a field trip to the firehouse. If you don't, whatever. I'll let you dress up as a fireman for trick or treat. And that's about as far as we go. A lot of times we're not cultivating the gifts because we don't see it. I think a lot of times as parents, we don't see education as our job. We are our child's first educator and most important educator, whether we chose to or not, whether we looked at a curriculum or not, whether we are highly educated or not, we are educating our children. And we don't realize that a formal school education is not like something that's been going on since the beginning of time, right? Like we take for granted these sitting in schools with all these kids and all this stuff. Like, that's been going on forever. It hasn't. And we've bought into it. And I'm not against it. My kids go to school. We're not homeschooling our kids currently, but we were forced to. And we realized there was some things that we could do differently. We could do more of. And then this summer, my wife has been working with our daughter, Savannah, because she was selected to go into a gifted program. So she's going to skip some grade level classes like math. But she's doing it now in the summer. So my wife is her teacher. So she's spending all this time with her and working it out and doing things and counting things. And I just think we miss this opportunity so often. And then we complain about what the schools aren't doing. Like, I can't teach my kids Black history if they don't do it. Now, I advocate for it in the school system. I think the schools need to do it because I know there's parents who aren't doing it. But at the same time, first and foremost, we have to focus on us. There was a great question from Sharice Grantham, another great question. She asked, do you guys know any single moms who are doing this? Because it looks great, you two as a team, and, you tag in, one tag out, sweeten each other up with sugar baby cookies if you have to, whatever. I'll make you some sugar baby, if you would just come take these kids off my hands for a second. So that looks nice, right? Do you guys have any in your community that are single moms or single dads who are trying to make this homeschool thing happen?
As of right now, I do know one, and she joined last year. And obviously our year was cut short with like spending time together as a community. So we only did a couple events where her and her daughter were able to come. But we do have one, and I can even, like, if you are interested, I can connect you with her just so she can share her experience, because I believe she still works and has to go into the office sometimes. And I think that sometimes she takes her daughter in. But I do have one that I know of for sure.
So, and thank you. And Sharice, Keena can get you that information, and maybe you can comment it or share it. However, I'll put the lady's whole information on blast, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
her address, phone number, Twitter handle, whatever. But most often, are you saying that you guys have seen, and I'm not saying this to discourage any single parents, but you guys have seen a lot of mother-father units homeschooling. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Most of the ones in our homeschool group are. But see, and that's another thing. I would go on for your area and search single parent homeschoolers in wherever you live. Because I guarantee that there are some groups that are geared towards that, because I know that there are some single parents who are doing it. And even if that means that, you're homeschooling, you're working during the day, and then maybe you're keeping your kids like busy with activities, like educational activities, and then you actually do your hands-on school with them in the evening. That is something that's possible. And I think that you have to, if you are a single parent and you still have to work, you might have to get out of the mindset that school is between 8 and 3.
Okay.
And you could do school in the evening and they still get the same,
Especially here.
Yeah, here. Like we do it when it's like sometimes we might start at 2. You see, this is early for us.
Okay. The kids are still, the kids was waking up when I was talking to you.
No, yeah, they're here.
Okay, they're right there looking at you? Okay.
No, they're in there watching something.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not start this early up in this house.
Okay. That's cool too. That's interesting. So when you're homeschooling, you get to set the hours or flex the hours as fits your life. So it doesn't have to be that regimented time. So right now for your kids, this is not school. Normally, if this was a school year for our kids, it would be school time already. And let me say, it's August 4th. So are we in the school year for your kids, or how do you guys do it?
So you know what, this year we kind of continued because I didn't feel like we were done. There was a lot happening. Number one, in our lives last year. And then with everything that happened with quarantine and COVID, and it kind of messes with you. But the good thing is that we did not have a big interruption in what we normally do outside of not being able to have our relationships and our interactions with our friends. That's what we miss the most.
Okay.
So that was a huge change for us to not be able to move how we need to move. And I myself am very personable and I really value relationship. And so my kids are the same way. Mm-hmm. Like last night they were begging, can we take this DVD over to our friends? Because they just wanted to stay over. They wanted to go play. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, sure. We'll take the DVD. And then we were there for like 4 hours.
Right.
But those are the things that we missed. But what was the question? Because I forgot.
Yeah, just like how really like your school year just kind of flexes your life.
Just kept going.
You know, like if we were taking trips to Ohio to come visit family, we would have big dreams of doing school up there, but then books would stay in the suitcase, right? And we wouldn't do school, right? So now we just kind of think, okay, well, it's just going to extend on, right? So I think for us, because we desire more of a flexible lifestyle in some ways, that, there is no real summer vacations, for our kids. They're going to do a little bit, whether it's just reading, doing some math or whatnot, just to kind of like Keena said, you kind of get a feel on the inside, like, I think we need to do a little bit more here versus a hard stop. Now, some parents might just want a break, know, because they can be regimented. They can have a strong schedule and say, I need a break more so than them. But I think for us, we try to look at the whole year in its totality and say, okay, maybe it's just like a week on, week off or whatever it might be. But it's, we tend to carry school over as long as necessary to where we kind of feel it's been adequate, for them. But
Awesome.
yeah, it is August 4th, but they're still reading, they're still doing some things, some little science projects, what have you,
That's good.
if need be.
That's good. I love it. I love it. April Hemi here on LinkedIn from LinkedIn said, I was a single parent, worked full time, then homeschooled my 8-year-old son. It's all about time management. Thank you so much, April. That also helps shed some light on the question that Sharice asked. Thank you for saying that, because it does seem darn near impossible as a single parent or a working parent. It's like, how can I make it happen? Another comment here from Rachel Murray. She said, as a public school teacher, I had to learn to shift my teaching hours for my students during quarantine. Many were weren't available until later in the day because of working parents. We hosted Friday pajama parties at 8 p.m. to do our mini lessons then. Shout out to Rachel for being flexible, because these kids who were forced to be home, the parents weren't all there ready to go, and the kids weren't all up, and things weren't all moving, and a lot of people were shocked. And chances are that it's very possible this school year that we could all go back, for those who are going back, and all be sent back, right? Like, there's a strong possibility in my mind that everybody will rush off to school. 4 teachers will get sick. 4 teachers, a principal, and a janitor will get sick, and they'll be like, shut it down. The janitor ain't here to clean. The principal ain't here to administer the administration, and 4 teachers is out, and they've been exposed to 14 other teachers and all these other kids. So if we are forced back into homeschooling, those of us who have not planned it, Dave and Keena, what advice would you give us? What parting words would you say if you get forced back into this? Take it as a blessing and do what?
And just spend as much time as you can just with your kids. Try to value the time. I know it's hard. Like with crisis homeschooling, I try to keep telling people, give yourself grace. Because you didn't ask for this. We're not asking, you're not asking to put them in and then all of a sudden have them sent back. So just give yourself some grace, and just be patient. Enjoy your kids as much as you can. Try to dive into their work with them, dive into just really spending as much time with them as you can, and just try to see the best in the situation. I know it's not easy, because it's not what anyone planned, and you really don't have much of a choice. We were able to choose to homeschool, but when you don't have much of a choice, it's hard. But just really try to find the best in the situation, I would say.
Yeah, I think, even too, like, talk to your kids about it. Say, hey, I know this ain't your fault. Like, it's not their fault that they got sent back home. They might want to be at school being with their friends, right? So I think initially you have to really just talk to your kids like, this is going to be different for all of us. My schedule isn't really conducive set up to just be here with you, whether you're working or you have other obligations, right? Like, I think from the start, you're going to have to just really talk to your kids and just level set with them and try and set up a plan. And again, take it day by day. I think if you go into it frustrated, like, man, this, why is this happening now? We have to figure it out. You're going to really set yourself back, just with that mindset to start off with. So I think if it does happen, I would almost prepare as if it will happen, even if it doesn't. But just prepare as if it will, so you're ahead of the game, and at least talk to them. Like, if this does, or if you do come home, here's how we're going to do it. Like, have a plan now. And if you don't have to use it, okay, great. But if you do, now you kind of know what it's going to look like, because I think it's not just the parents' job to figure it all out because of something they've been handed. I think it's now you and your kids' job together to kind of work on, okay, what will this look like for us? How can we make this, fit for our lifestyle with what we have going on at home? And then just take it day by day. Again, don't feel like as a parent, you have to now replace somebody and become an expert on a particular subject, right? Your main duty is always to be the parent. It's not necessarily to be this formalized teacher, right? Yes, you're going to help with that, but that's not the new role you've created for yourself. So focus more on just being the parent, talk to your kids, figure out a plan for yourself, try and get ahead of it, and then just take it day by day.
Dave, Keena, you two, I can't thank you guys enough. You were called for such a time as this. I don't know if you guys realized it. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't know when you first stepped out there and God was positioning you guys and ordering your steps and making it work. But you don't know how insightful this is. I mean, even to me, like, I'm not just, we're all friends. We all talk regularly. But just to hear you guys talk and share is even helping me. and helping me think about my kids and my family. I think it's so important, like you guys said, to have these conversations in advance, because I am concerned that they will come home and be pushed out of school, maybe pushed out of the sports that they love. Maybe this could be very difficult. And there's a mental health toll, and there's a lot on the parents and on the kids, and parents are being laid off, and there's stress in the homes, and there's a lot going on. We're trying to figure out how to feed them, pay bills. There's a lot going on in a lot of families, and people aren't preparing. And there's a saying, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. So you guys' insight is such an important piece of the puzzle for so many parents. I hope that everybody who was watching today got something out of today's show. If you missed parts of it, go back and watch the replay. And if people wanted to get a hold of you, where are you guys at? I know you guys do Sugar Babies. If they just wanted to follow you on social media or connect with you in any way, how could people connect with Dave and Keena Woods?
Yeah, I mean, we do live look-in teaching sessions. Keena's always streaming, classroom session.
That is cool. Let's do that. I'll host it. Let's do some of those.
Yeah, right. No,
let's do it.
But yeah, always feel free to reach out, especially if you have questions or whatnot to us. We're not hard to get a hold of. If there's anything we can do to support, call us up, email us, whatever it takes. Certainly, again, we're just going to speak from our experience, and try and pour into other people, because a large part of kind of what we're called to do is empowerment, not just with what we're doing. I mean, we're a light set on a hill, right? So that, our example can be seen, for others, nowhere near perfect by any stretch of the means. But, I'll say this, a lot of what me and Keena do is very goes against the grain in a lot of ways of what we were kind of raised to or what we were brought up for. Like, both my parents, were educators. They spent over 70 years combined, in the public education system. So when we were homeschooling, that was a complete shock to their system. Like, that wasn't what I was raised to do. That definitely wasn't what they were about. So, I think at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with the decisions that you're going to make, in the best interest of your children or best interest of your family. And if you have any questions on that or feel like, is this the right thing to do, please just don't hesitate to reach out.
I love it. You guys are phenomenal. You guys are insightful. So many people in the comments are thanking you guys for your information. Keena, I believe you said you had some links that you could share. Please post those links in the comments.
I will.
When you get a chance. You guys who are watching this by replay or live, tag some friends after this is over and say, go back and watch this, and let them know it's important for us to be thinking about whether they plan on being homeschool parents, whether they're planning to send their kids back, or whether they're planning on virtual learning, because there is a difference between choosing to be homeschool parents and choosing a curriculum and working with your children every day versus obviously sending them back versus this virtual learning that we're kind of thrust into, where we're expecting the teachers from the school to be there online and them to be sending us all the work. All those things are different. But I think at the end of the day, what Dave and Keena Woods have helped us realize is we have to put our kids' education first. We have to realize that we are their primary educators. We have to have a plan. We have to prepare. We don't know what's going to happen. We're assuming all of this pandemic stuff is going to work out. There is no guarantee that this is all about to smooth out anytime soon. We need to be prepared, and we need to be prepared because who knows, sadly, 5 years from now, something like this could happen again. Will we be in position? Will we be prepared? Will we have the communities in place and the structures to support us so that we can have our kids be as successful as possible? Our kids' futures depend on it. So, as always, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it, my friends. You guys are phenomenal. I look forward to seeing you guys on some. If you guys want them on your podcast or your show, they're now on tour, the Dave and Keena Woods school tour. They didn't plan this, but the Lord has plans for them. They have been called to help other families do it, and I know they do it through a lot of prayer and a lot of love. Shout out to your family who's on here. I saw your brother Sean and Melvin and some others who are on here. To everybody who was here, friends of the show, family, everybody who watched today, you guys, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys support them and check out sugarbabies.com. Is that where they can get a hold of some cookies or what? No, they can't get a hold of cookies unless they live next door to you. Help us out.
Okay, stop. Okay, eventually. But we are on Instagram, Sugar Babies Cookies, and Facebook, Sugar Babies Cookies. And if you are interested, when we come to Ohio, I usually bake. And if you want to be on the priority list, that is the best way to get cookies. You can text me at 330-313-5698. I'm not putting that on the screen. I'm not going to ask you to repeat that. I don't want anybody ahead of me. I'm sick of this.
I'm sick of it. Oh, look, they done popped off. I don't know what happened. They pushed the button and they disappeared. All right, you guys check them out at sugarbabies.com. Oh, no, you guys check Sugar Babies on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. If it's not sugarbabies.com, I don't know. Check them out. They have a wonderful business. They're teaching their kids to be kidpreneurs. Shout out to Dave and Keena Woods. I don't know. Their thing got disconnected, but we're so glad that we had them as guests today. I think I hear them popping back on. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. But nonetheless, we're so grateful that they were here with us today. They were obviously wonderful guests. And we're going to have them back again. If you guys have questions, if you guys don't know how to get a hold of them, you can reach out to me and I will help you connect to them. Everybody, let's have a great day. Shout out tomorrow morning. We're going to have Mr. Alec Simon on the show again to share some insights, share his story, and continue to be a blessing to so many people. So I'm excited to have him. And then Thursday morning, we will have Miss Amanda Jean Dukes, my producer, and I will be talking about some fun topics and having some fun and some laughs. So make sure you guys join us Thursday morning at 8 a.m. We're so excited to have you guys. Everybody, enjoy your day. Watch this again. Listen to it again while you're at work. Everybody have